Control number 4, updates.
Updates.
Right? Now,
yes.
a lot of people when
Patching,
they hear
updates.
right? If you're just a member of the general public and you just have a Windows PC at home, you don't really think about IT too much. You might just think about, Windows updates. My PC updates every now and then automatically. I don't have to do much. Sometimes it asks me to restart it. Sometimes it asks me to do it at the right time. Windows updates are good and we obviously want them to happen. But I think the really important topic when we talk about updates is the updates of appliances. This doesn't happen automatically a lot of the time.
No, and it doesn't even happen manually a lot of the time because
That's the problem.
we can't take it down. We can't take that offline. And I know exactly what you're thinking of. What's the big one at the moment that you're thinking of?
There certainly is a big Netscaler one going around.
The Citrix. The Citrix vulnerability, right?
I believe it was a 0-day and then it was patched, but a lot of the time, these threat actors will exploit these so fast these days that they'll simply drop a web shell, get that persistence before the patch, and then once you patch, it's too late. You already have that persistent access.
So patching doesn't delete the web shell.
That's right.
Right, you've got to go and then rebuild it, and they'll drop that. So you patch, but then they've got access a year, 2 years, 3 years later, which is what we're starting to see. We're starting to see a lot more investigations or matters come out now from compromises of Citrix devices because a web shell was dropped months ago, and unless you're looking for it, you've got no idea.
Exactly. And it's certainly not a device that people check very often, right? You don't often have people going through appliance file systems to see what's there, and they're hard to monitor too, right? A lot of the time, there might be a proprietary version of Linux, for example, and might not be able to natively send logs to a seam.
Yeah.
So it can be really hard to figure out if there's malicious files on there in the first place.
Well, I remember a client we worked with, they patched the next day after Citrix announced the vulnerability. They patched it the next day, and they were still exploited and ransomware.
Yep.
So it's not enough now, is it, to just keep on top of these updates and patching. You need to have the segregation in place. So if you've got something that's internet facing, shift it away from everything. Put a DMZ in place, put network segregation in place, because patching is great, updates are fantastic, and it will solve a lot of issues, but then you need to take it even a step further now.
That's right. And I mean, circling back to a word we mentioned earlier, resiliency, right? This is where you expect to have a breach of some kind. Eventually, maybe a 0-day will drop in an appliance and you can't get to it fast enough to patch in time. You need to have processes, standard operating procedures in place there so that you'll automatically straight away do some kind of threat hunt to look for IOCs, do an analysis of what might have happened of the breach and respond quickly, right? That's really the key. A quick response when you do get breached, because it's almost inevitable these days.
100%. That quick response force.
That's right.
We follow a lot of military terms in cybersecurity, and that's just another one. Secondary to updates is a vulnerability management program, which then checks if you've done the updates across the environment, because as well, a lot of the Microsoft systems will lie and say, hey, the patch has been installed. But then you go and run a third-party verification tool like a vulnerability scanner and it says, hey, maybe not. So you need to go and double-check that.
Yep, absolutely key.
Right, they're the 4 controls.
They are the 4 controls.
They're the 4.
They're good controls.
They're
Don't
good
get me
controls.
Wrong.
They're a bit basic though, aren't they?
They are.
Are they going to Are they going to stop Lockbit from coming and ransomwaring my network?
If you don't have layered controls in combination with these, probably not. A more sophisticated threat actor is probably going to find a way in one way or another.